Right, back on the late edition. Thanks for staying on. Like I said, it's been a busy week news-wise. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu appearing for the first time now before Parliament's ad hoc committee to present his side of the story, which we haven't heard really since the 6th of July, on claims of infiltration in the criminal justice system. For more on this and other big stories of the past 7 days, let's speak now to political analyst Professor Zulu, columnist Matata Tsedu, as well as columnist and social commentator Donovan Williams, who's with me here in the studio. Taking your thoughts as always, 010 is the number to call, and 5946010. Otherwise, 072-110-5584 on X at Newzroom 405. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to have you.
Thank you, Thabo. It's good to see you.
Fantastic. Prof, let's begin with you. It's the first time that at least we are getting the version now from the two implicated individuals, in particular being the Minister on Special Leave and the Deputy National Police Commissioner, Shadrack Sibiya. Let's begin with Sibiya, who would have presented his version of what would have taken place. And as far as he's concerned, there's a degree of bad blood between the executives in the SAPS and terrain factions, if you like. He says he had the right to the dockets, and he says there's really nothing to the dockets. In fact, he went on to say the nation was lied to. Did he accord himself well? I mean, are we clearer now on his involvement in this so-called infiltration?
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to your viewers. I think that the time has come for our leadership to take us seriously as the voters, more especially because they are in those positions through the vote of you and I, and therefore they must show some respect. What I saw happening in this case, especially as it pertains to Deputy National Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, was that he seemed too casual about very serious matters, because the issues that were raised by General Mkhwanazi are at the core of the survival of this nation. So now we have this so-called 121 dockets or 123 dockets, depending on how you read them. And then it's clear that the National Commissioner did not sanction the withdrawal of those dockets or the removal of those dockets. Then there comes Shadrack Sibiya saying that he doesn't know anything about all of that. Now you listen to the statement given by General Mkhwanazi, and then you listen to the version of the National Commissioner Masimola, and then you listen to Shadrack Sibiya. It's as if these people are living in different countries, and the two are agreeing that in fact Shadrack Sibiya had something to do with the removal of the documents. In fact, they went on to say that he is the one who instructed that those documents be removed from KwaZulu-Natal and be taken to Pretoria, only to find that he says he doesn't know anything about the dockets, he doesn't know anything about the meeting. Basically, he doesn't know anything. I don't even know what he was there for, because he doesn't seem to know anything at all.
Yeah. Dr. Matata, I mean, did you feel like you were living in a different country in terms of what you have been reporting so far in publications and in opinion pieces to what Shadrack Sibiya would have revealed around the events of the disbandment of that political killings task team?
Hi, good evening. I'm not really sure whether National Deputy Commissioner Sibiya revealed anything. He was extremely incoherent, and things had to be forced out of him in a way that is not fitting for a Deputy National Commissioner. And I agree with Prof. Zulu. You get a sense that even his body language, the way he was sitting, where he would place his glasses on his eyes, it was not as if he was really thinking that his future and his career depended on what he was going to say there. So, but what it really did was to show us as citizens of this country that the top echelons of the South African Police Service, it's in a big fight amongst themselves. Yeah. because he took a line that was completely different from the other two.
Indeed, Donovan, I mean, what we are seeing very clearly is division, particularly at the highest level and maybe even in the intelligence environment and what that would have resulted in. But are you satisfied that that's all really that's going on? I mean, he says, I don't even know about the existence of a cartel. He says, if there is a cartel that exists, why did you arrest them?
Well, I think in many ways, in our country, intelligence tends to insult our intelligence as a country. It's sad. You know, Bafana qualified for the World Cup. Our Proteas women are doing quite well in the Cricket World Cup. And usually we'd be dancing in the streets, right? But there isn't that excitement because we get back and we see this theatre and soap opera, that be it a commission or in parliament. And there's an indictment on our democracy in real ways. We're in trouble. We are in real trouble because this is theatre and soap opera. We watch it, we get titillated, but we get no confidence from it. The pillars of democracy is mandate and accountability. And for either to occur, there has to be transparency. Yeah. And I think the leadership, political leadership in particular, both in government and in political parties, may think they're scoring points amongst each other and even in these institutions like our police, with each other, evasiveness, like Sibiya was. I think he was deliberately incoherent. So he didn't want to answer anything. It was foolish. It was just foolishness. The bottom line is this. We are creating no confidence. Our people are getting less and less confidence in our institutions of democracy and in the leadership as well. How do we have this greater reset? We've got a serious integrity problem in all echelons of our society where there's leadership. Anybody with a little power tends to use it for self-interest. And so we create heroes, and Mkonazi seems to be a hero. I hope they will call Mary de Haas, who Mkonazi says, can she be asked questions about those dockets and why she says that the political killings task team, etc., those dockets weren't good enough and they weren't properly investigated or whatever. It goes deeper than this. And I think that's what you're asking, Thabo, and what we're all asking. This is the soap opera and it's nice to watch and so forth. But how do we put our institutions right? Yeah. How do we make certain that it's not easy to be corrupt? It's not easy to be incompetent? Why do we, and this is across, you've had recently in DA leadership in the Western Cape, houses being raided on corruption matters. So this goes further than the politics we are talking about. We're going to go to an election, local government elections, you have the G20, everything being cleaned up, and everyone's asking, well, you're cleaning up for the G20, what does that mean? And all these questions are real because we lack confidence in those who are supposed to lead us in whichever institution. And that soap opera you see on TV every day and you hear it on social media and wherever else is reminding us that we are on a long hiding to nothing because there's only jesters and fools, and maybe we are the biggest fools.
Sure. Prof, let's talk about the oversight that would have been conducted on Shadrack Sibiya. However you feel about his performance, did the lawmakers accord themselves well? Were they able, for example, to punch holes into his testimony around his relationships with Mkhotsi, with Matlala, around his role in the removing of those dockets, around his knowledge of the cartels, around him and his integrity in that environment of police?
But Thabo, let us be honest here. First of all, I don't believe in these commissions, nor do I believe in the ad hoc committee. What I would have wanted, or what would have impressed me, would be to have anyone implicated, having formal charges laid against those individuals, let them defend themselves, and let the court decide. And then those matters be debated in public so that we know what is happening. Now, in this case, you have seen a couple of things that have happened. We're talking about witnesses, but then at the same time, must also talk about those, either the evidence leaders or the people who are questioning the witnesses. If you are going to question someone in a public platform like the two that you are currently having, definitely you must prepare yourself very well. You would have seen that in some instances, including the ad hoc committee, Yalo committee was saved by Julius Malema because there seemed to be some inconsistency, something that you don't even need Law 101 to know how to prepare documents for, for an event of this magnitude. So I would say that as much as we can blame the witnesses, but we should also equally blame those who are supposed to question those witnesses. Were they well prepared? Did they follow the responses they were given? And did they take those responses at face value, or did they ask probing questions to get to the gist of the matter? Because let's take the case of Sibiya, for example. If he's evading a question, then how do you then bring him in line and say, but this is the question, go straight to the point, and then forget about other stuff that you have not been asked about? Then the same applies to all other witnesses. So the moment you have a structure that seems ill-prepared, and then we have a witness that doesn't seem to know what is happening, then we have a problem. It comes back to the point we have made previously that monies are being wasted and we don't get something tangible out of those inquiries. This is just one example. I'm not going to talk about the Marikana. I'm not going to talk about the Zondo Commission. We're just talking about this. The way it started, you start asking questions if at the end of the entire process, we're going to get what we hope to get.
Yeah. Matata, let's stay with the oversight. I mean, in comes the special Minister on special leave, Senzo Mchunu. He seems to have taken umbrage with the evidence leader in terms of his interjections. Says he's not given enough time for me to present my side of the story, one, but also he pushes back on a number of narratives that he says that the evidence leader is trying to push. One, for example, he says, you say that the fact that I didn't hold a meeting with Masemula, Mkhwanazi and Kumalo about my directives, I've seemed to have done something illegal. He says, let's get that right. I didn't do anything illegal here. And the other issue is the issue of the briefing of the president, whether or not that was adequate enough. But just in terms of that interaction between the two.
Well, for starters, I thought that Advocate Norman Arendse was very lax and allowing ramblings to go on forever. If you're old enough, Thabo, to remember the Heifer Commission, and we had, I think it was Cassie Naidoo. He was a bulldog, even though he was the evidence leader, but he was the bulldog that smashed Mo Sheikh and his crew into smithereens. What we are seeing from Norman Arendse, it's not the same. So that for me has been a problem. But as for the minister, I was personally very disappointed with the way he explained his things. I mean, if you are really wanting to close down a task team like the one that he was closing down, that was not just another task team. It's not the task team against illegal mining. This is a task team against political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, where people who were being killed belonged to the same party that he belonged to. So if he's going to close it down, even if he might not speak to Matata, but he should explain the reasons to Masemula. But he doesn't, and there is no explanation as to why, a rational explanation that he gives as to why he didn't do that. And that, for me, is because he can't say the reason. The truth can't be said, because it did not just happen out of the blue. It happened after Matlala was raided and guns were taken, and it became quite clear that this was now going to really smash these cartels that Sibiya says don't exist. And the minister cannot tell us that, because if he says that, he's dead. And now he can't say that, but because it's incoherent, he's also still dead.
So you're saying the version that it's between him and his advisor, Pikoli, and these directives came from his head. You can't seem to reconcile that with the evidence that he's leading, or at least the reasoning and the explanation.
No, there is no rational explanation about why. If we go back to what Mkhwanazi said, Mkhwanazi says there was a funeral. I think it was, let me not say where, but it was in KwaZulu-Natal, of a police officer who was killed. They attended that funeral, the three of them. The following day, Senzo, the minister, writes this letter. He was with these two guys on the day before he wrote the letter. He didn't even take an opportunity to pull them aside and say, hey, man, you know, there's this thing that I'm worried about and there's a letter that will be coming tomorrow. No, he doesn't. He just sends the letter the following day. So why? What is this thing that makes him want this thing to be killed immediately? And then he wants us to believe that immediately has a different meaning. It's not like when you are marching and I say stop and you stop, you know, immediately means find a way of doing this when it is possible. That's Masemula's approach to what he was saying immediately. Masemula said, no, we can't do it immediately. We can do it in a phased out way. And that is not immediately. But he wants to give new meanings even to English words. And I just found him very, very disappointing personally.
Let's take the lines now. We've got Sanele Mnambiti. Sanele, good evening. Good to have you with us. Go ahead. What's on your mind? Siyabonga, Nkosi. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And greeting to all your panelists there. You know, I'm very, actually, I don't know, I don't have weight for the Minister Mchunu, because I was expecting something so different and more informed about his lead on the commission. Firstly, I want Dr. Mngomezulu to address, to make a territory on this one, on the understanding, something that I don't understand the ministers. He is very confident that he sent a letter to disband the PKTT, but he sent the letter while the national commissioner is on the official leave. Then to me, it's like he sent it to the empty office there, because no one will receive that letter, even if there are some people that are within the offices. But now, as the minister, he should be very much be careful and be addressed about them. Secondly, I'm worried, Thabo Mdluli, about this. We understand that the ad hoc and the Madlanga Commission, they are not yet any finalization. But now, after all this, what will be the image of the intelligence of the country and the SAPS? Mind you, because the ministers, particularly with Senzo Mchunu, he is politically deployed there. But we understand now that there are cartels that are running the intelligence and the close intelligence report of our country. Then what will be the balance? As the citizen, should we have any hope after all this?
Yes.
And lastly, I want the panelists, particularly Mr. Mngomezulu, I'm with you. Let us accommodate Mr. Senzo Mchunu about this, the budget of the PKTT, this 255 billion plus or negative, that thing there. Let's accommodate that thing there, because I was so keen that he will give us more clarity on it, that side. Okay. But now, on that cost that was only placed in the case in one province, what does that mean at all?
All right, appreciate you. Thank you, Sanele. In Mnambiti there, all right, we'll get Donovan, we'll get the Prof to respond to that and interrogate other developments as well, as far as that is concerned, when the late edition continues next. Stay with us. Back with you, and our panel conversation continues. Political analyst Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, columnist Matatu Tsedu, as well as social commentator and columnist Donovan Williams with me in the studio. Donovan, let's pick up from the appearance of the minister. I mean, he says he applied his mind to a number of things, right? One, that he was dealing with the fact that cash in transit highs were on a high, murder rate was on a high, proliferation of illegal guns were on a high. These are things that he had to think about in December, so that he comes in the next day in January, guns blazing, right? To say, how do we address this issue? Two, he was getting, of course, complaints about this task team, right? 3, he was dealing with the issues of budget. As to why this one task team is taking so much budget and it's only focusing in KwaZulu-Natal. He's looking at all these things and saying, in the totality of it, what he came down with are those directives.
Yeah, plausible, maybe. He's never said it before. The letter itself, did it include any of those matters? Moreover, he could have expanded the mandate, notwithstanding the name of the task team. The matter is this, and I'm glad Baba Tsedu raised about the Heifer Commission, because we have a problem. And it's not just the turf battles, not just the budgets and so forth, because that political killings task team for KwaZulu-Natal is a historical problem. And it's a problem that has come even after the 2000s. But he referred us back to the Heifer Commission, if we recall. Both the ad hoc committee and the commission are inquisitorial. So firstly, the minister's complaints about being interjected and so forth is not fair. It's unfair on his part because it's inquisitorial. So there has to be interjected. You have to be probing because outcomes of that would help whatever investigation that is done by either the police or a court of law in that way. But more particularly is that we have had a long problem within the justice cluster or justice and security cluster in our country. If you think back to the Heifer Commission itself, if you think back going to the Polokwane Conference of the African National Congress, where you could see different arms of the state being used in a factional battle of the ruling party. Completely wrong. In the past couple of days, or was it yesterday, the day before, you had over 7 million people marching in over 20 cities in the United States on something called a No Kings protest against Donald Trump and the rising fascism and so forth. People standing up. In our country, we've had a Minister of Intelligence's wife get arrested for drug trafficking. Minister of Intelligence's wife get arrested for drug trafficking. She goes to jail and life goes on, business as usual. Nothing tells us there's something wrong. I don't think right now police intelligence or intelligence can spend their money on wherever they're paying, CIs as they call them, confidential informants where you don't give their names and so forth. There has to be complete transparency in these things right now. Because our intelligence services or whichever security that we have seems to be quite polluted. And so therefore this titillation is important and so forth, but there has to be a greater transparency so we can have that better reset. So when the minister talks like the way he's, and Sanele is correct what he's raised, when the minister raises these matters in the way he does, he is not adding or taking Parliament, at least, the people in particular, into confidence to say, this is what I'm trying to do to clean up the SAPS.
Yeah.
He's being as bureaucratic as he can be to say, I applied my mind. I don't need to go into how I applied my mind. He's saying that I had this authority. I don't need to tell you why I need to do that. That's my authority. But I'll go back to what we said. Mandate and accountability and transparency. That's what the people need. Right. The minister failed on all three points, on all three scores. Yeah. And that's unfortunate because it's not just his failure. It is government's failure. It is Parliament's failure. And it reinforces the dim opinion that is growing, that we have given up.
Sure. Prof. Sanele has got 2 questions for you. One is what the minister explains as, it was December, of course. The Office of the National Police Commissioner doesn't go on leave. That office, the individual might have been on leave, but the office doesn't go on leave. It must continue to work. Applied my mind, and these were things that needed to be processed so that by the time we begin the new year, we start on a new leaf. And he says, well, what was the purpose of that, writing those directives to an office that is empty? But 2, he says, is he raising a valid point around a budget concentrated on a unit that is really not forming part of the organogram as far as the minister is concerned, and it's a temporary structure that was only focusing on one province when there would have been political killings happening throughout the country, and therefore it needed to be assimilated properly into an organogram?
Okay, Butabo, let's dispense with the first question because I think it will be easier to deal with that one that of the letter. Of course, if I'm the school principal and I'm either incapacitated or I have another commitment which is going to keep me out of the office for some days, I will have someone acting in my position, or my deputy will then come in and act in that position. So that is not a major issue. But the problem is the one that Mr. Senzo raised earlier on, the issue of the timing. And then the same point that was raised also by Mr. Williams there. And the issue of the timing. It's not as if the minister went to bed, woke up the following day, and then decided, let me disband the PKTT. Yeah. No, it didn't work out like that. So it means the minister had applied his mind, in his own words, by the way, he applied his mind. Yeah. So which means that he gave himself enough time to think about this. So if that is the case, why didn't he consult then the person who is supposed to act on this matter instead of him taking an executive decision? We are criticizing Trump of taking executive decisions, and then we are doing exactly the same thing. Yeah. But let's put that aside, because like you said, there was someone acting, and there was a chief of staff to collect the letter, hand it over to the acting deputy commissioner, and then the deputy commissioner will then share it with the commissioner when he came back from leave. So then that is fine. Now the issue of the budget, I think for one to be concerned about this, then obviously for me that will be tantamount to being naive, in the sense that these political killings in KwaZulu-Natal surpass all the other 8 provinces. I'm not the one saying it just because I happen to come from KwaZulu-Natal. Statistics will confirm this. In fact, statistical data presented by different ministers of police, including Minister Mchunu, shows that there have been a number of politicians who are killed in KwaZulu-Natal, either on the eve of the election or in between elections. It's just a daily bread or daily occurrence. That is the reason why then this provincial task team was established in KwaZulu-Natal and not necessarily in other provinces. It was because of the need. You do a needs assessment and then you take a decision based on that. And then, of course, you cannot have a provincial task team without a budget, which therefore means that you have to put in resources to make sure that the goal that you have set for yourself is achievable. You cannot send soldiers to fight without guns and without ammunition. It wouldn't make sense. Yeah. No logical sense there. So in this case, as much as the concern could be plausible, but then it must be read in context. The moment you take this out of context and say, we have 9 provinces, but we have so much budget going towards KwaZulu-Natal, we are going to miss the point, because you are analyzing data out of context. And those who do research will tell you that the moment you do that, then you have already lost the battle even before it starts. So for me, that shouldn't be an issue, honestly.
Yeah. One of the questions asked by Sanel is, what will be of intelligence? Well, what we do know is that now the president has acted on the Inspector General of intelligence. Others, I mean, I've heard anecdotally others saying, well, this is maybe outside of the president's normal character. He normally consults quite a lot. It takes a very long time to make a decision on removing anyone, really, including his own ministers. But it seems on this particular one, just purely out of what's coming out of the Madlanga Commission, the president seems to have acted.
Yeah, and we should applaud him for that. I mean, the fact that in other matters he didn't do well quickly enough for us, and even put Senzo on paid leave of absence and not suspension, shouldn't mean that when he does something right, we should really go in and question in the manner in which this decision is being questioned. It's good that maybe he has learned. We should be appreciative that maybe all these pressures that you are putting on him, Thabo, is finally making a mark, and you know, hope springs eternal in this kind of matters. But the issue about the budget, I think it's just a red herring, because if he's going to take it and make it part of something else, but it must still do what it is supposed to do, it will still need the same resources, that it was having. So it's a red herring. I think we should really accept that this thing was being killed because it was getting too close to people that needed to be protected by both, if we believe Khumalo, if we believe Khumalo and Mkhwanazi. There are cartels that needed to be protected from this task team.
Let's talk then, when we come back from the break, a little bit about those characters. I mean, one being Brown Mokgotsi and him being raided, and I suppose how he's reacted to it also as an individual. Of course, we'll take your thoughts as well on 072-110-5584 on X at Newzroom 405. We're back. Back with you, and thanks for staying with the late edition. Let's take some of your WhatsApp messages now that have come through, reacting, of course, to our conversation tonight. AGM saying, good evening, Thabo, rather. The minister encroaches on operational matters. These are not policy matters. Good evening, Thabo. What was strange to me was the ANC member who hugged the minister as if he was not a witness in the future. All right, Shadrack Sibiya in Middleburg say good evening. All I can say for now is that we are waiting for that threatening message that Senzo Mchunu is talking about, because that recording that was played on Friday has none. Rufus Edenvale, Minister Mchunu did not consult sufficiently before taking a decision to disband. The letter could as well be somewhat professional enough to state valid reasons behind the decision. I completely do not concur with the way he wants to justify the word immediately. That's Rufus there in Edenvale. Let's talk about Brown Mokgotsi. I mean, what do you find
Andy Wardle talks,
and what is going to come out from him?
Yeah. Andy Wardle talks about your 10 minutes of fame, eh? when media was exploding in our world, and he said everybody is supposed to get their 10 minutes of fame, and this is possibly Brown Mokgotsi's 10 minutes of fame, as he does the round robin of news studios across the country, and these are the unsavory characters that seem to find access to leaders. Why? In the struggle against apartheid, you had Tutsis, you had crooks involved who were used in the struggle to help to render the country ungovernable. But they never had access to actual power. They were known as Tutsis. You wonder today if there is that division anymore.
Sure.
And that's what's scary. Minister Mchunu, whatever happens with Brian Mokgotsi, those names are going to go like two pedals on a bicycle, no matter what. He will have a lot to explain about this character, who, when you listen to him and so forth, the things he's been saying, and when he will come there, he'll be, I guess, as entertaining as well. You're going to ask yourself, but are these the characters that we are supposed to be listening to? And this is what worries. This is what's quite worrying. The African National Congress has to ask itself questions. It's not just about its membership. It really goes far, and the Secretary General talking about if he's a member on probation, and all of that is actually quite irrelevant. The matter is that there are people associated with it and its leaders who are unsavory.
Right.
They're completely unsavory. So it's very, very difficult to believe anyone in the African National Congress on renewal, for one. There's no program on renewal. It's just, decrees and speeches about it. And then overall, as a society, we have to ask ourselves, how do we keep on producing these people?
Yeah. Press for time. But I want to get just final comments from both Prof. Mngomezulu and Matata Tsedu. Just 1 minute there, Prof. Quick one. The ANC, is it capable politically to deal with the character of Brown Mokgotsi, who says, well, if you think the January 8 payment is the only payment, wait until I go there. I'll tell you how many other people got paid.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Brown Mokgotsi spilling the beans. Because if he were to go down, he will not go down alone. That is a fact. And it's bound to happen, particularly because he has been vilified openly, not just by the people we are talking about, but even by Fikile Mbalula, the SG of the ANC, going to the extent of saying, I don't even know where he got my number from. He's calling me, I'm not going to answer that now. You don't do that if you are dealing with issues of such a significance. If you have concerns, you deal with those concerns privately and not in public. We're not interested in all of that. Yeah. All we want is just to take this country forward. And currently, I don't think we're in a better position to do that. Now, in the case of the ANC, one of my major concerns is that they don't seem to take constructive criticism seriously. The moment you come up with constructive criticism, you are labeled an enemy. If you are from within the party, you are said to be pushing an anti-revolutionary idea. As long as that mentality prevails, I don't see anything positive coming out of it.
Yeah, Mbalula was in Mpumalanga, Tate Matata, saying, comrades, go out there and clean the name of the ANC. Brown Mokhotsi, on the other hand, saying, I'm going there, I'm going to do something else. I mean, is this the final nail on the coffin of the renewal program?
It's actually quite pathetic that the African National Congress, I want to call it that, not just the ANC, but the African National Congress, has characters like Brown Mokhotsi as members who wield the kind of influence that we are being made to believe he wielded. And what Max is screaming about doesn't really help matters, as a prof is saying. The ANC is in trouble, and I'm not sure that they will be able to work themselves out of it. The renewal, it's a slogan that has no bearing on reality on the ground. And therefore, these things that we are seeing now, the Madlanga Commission and even the ad hoc committee, may be part of the nails, the final nails that may be hit onto the coffin of the ANC. At the moment, they are really in trouble.
Gentlemen, I'll leave it there for this evening. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. That is political analyst, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, columnist Matata Tsedu, and social commentator and columnist Donovan Williams, and of course, yourself and your participation. What's making news next on the late edition when we continue? Do stay with us.